The following is a Michigan Sesquicentennial Year presentation.
There it is, that infamous hole through the ice that many anglers peer through during the winter to see if they can pull a big fish from there. Well, ice fishing is something that takes a lot of stamina, it takes the right equipment, the right clothing. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Now, what about the ice, though? Well, I got a report. It's not too great. We're going to have to take you ice fishing a couple years ago with Ron Spittler in the southern Michigan lake. We'll talk about ice fishing. You'll see what fun it is. So stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
Well, looks like that while we were setting the tip-ups, I got something over here. Little pike. Was that Jim Waybrand?
Jim Waybrand, yes, he's my technician, and he volunteered to come out and help us try to locate some fish today.
You think ice fishermen overfish the lakes?
No, and we're in Oakland County, and you can see today there's not a large crowd. We're having a pretty fair fishery here.
Well, let's see that, Jim. Is that legal size? Well, we have to have a 20-inch pike here in Michigan to be legal. And we have a very typical 19 and a half incher.
3/4.
19 and 3/4. Did you bring the fish stretcher, Ron?
Just stomp on him real good. That'll do it.
Well, we're going to have to turn him back. What did he hit on?
Minnow.
Is he still hooked? Okay, well, he just got hooked in the corner of the mouth. And that's oftentimes what happens with the pike when they run off with a bait like this. Gonna get him okay? Well, that's a northern pike. There's some big northern pike that are taken out of Michigan through the ice, oftentimes speared, but many times with tip-ups. Now, you weren't fishing for pike. We're here in almost 30 feet of water. And how deep down were you fishing, Jim?
About 20 feet.
Oh, here he goes. A little sluggish, but he'll find his way back. Look, ooh, took right off. Well, let's get set up for panfish. Let's see how Bob Allen is doing over here. Bob has 4 fish on the ice. You can see him right here. We got, 2 crappies and 2 small bluegill. Now, what I have was flopping around my neck here. You ever seen one of these?
No.
A muff. Mighty muff, this one is called. There's different types. Just put your hand in there. Now, go ahead and try that.
That's pretty nice.
Not too bad.
No, I bring a little heater with me.
I know. Now, Bob Allen, you're an insurance man here in
Yes.
Oakland County?
Yes, I am.
Stand up just a second here. Let's look at your ice fishing rig. He's seated here on a hot seat type of deal, and keeps all his fishing gear in this little sled which you pull. And what kind of heater is this?
That's a Coleman. That's a Coleman heater, and it's got a Crisco can over the top of it to
sort of diffuse some of the heat?
Yeah, it kind of protects it a little bit.
Well, let's see. This is how Bob fishes. This is how he got the 4. Sitting here like this on the ice sled, keeping his hands warm, tending to the 2 ice fishing rods. Now, these rods, they're set up special so you can set them on the ice with a little tripod here. I'm going to have to take that thing off for a second. And this is what's called a sneaky bobber. You want to explain this little spring bobber or sneaky bobber on the end, Bob?
Well, when the fish are biting in the wintertime, they bite so light that you really can't tell just from your rod if you've got a bite or not. So it's kind of nice to be able to, well, you can see every time I move the rod just a little bit there, just pulling the line, how sensitive that thing is.
Sure, so you can watch it. One thing, your hands are oftentimes a little cold. The rod is short, and you don't feel the fish pulling. Plus, the fish don't hit very hard in the winter.
No, they don't. They really do hit light, especially the bigger fish. Seems like sometimes the bigger the fish is, the lighter they hit.
Okay, well, you caught these on minnows. Maybe the action will pick up. We're fishing here midday.
That pike scared them away.
Well, now, that could be. Sometimes a pike cruising through can do that. What are you going to use for bait, Ron?
Well, believe it or not, I'm going to pick a lazy way and go with a piece of sponge.
Piece of sponge?
Just like the steel headers.
Is that a lazy way or a cheap way?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't have to run around and buy the bait and keep it in my refrigerator, which my wife hates to see when I'm not fishing, of course. And it stays on the hook well.
Where is your sponge here?
Well,
I want to see this. Now, I have never heard of ice fishing.
You haven't?
Just with a piece
I'm not using that piece.
But you're going to break off a piece of that?
Break off a small piece of it.
Well, like how? Let's see how you do that.
If I can even handle it with my cold fingers here. Just a little piece. I'll
That size?
put one on a hook and give you a
No.
better idea.
Is this the hook you're going to use?
Yes.
Now this is what we'd call a teardrop type of lure, ice fishing lure. It's normally baited with something. Now what good is this going to do?
It imitates a chunk of meat just like a waxworm or mousey would. I've
Well-
caught a lot of fish on it.
Wouldn't the fish come up and sort of smell or taste a bait? Isn't that the principle behind a waxworm? Or?
You got me, because there's no smell or taste to that, and they take it.
But they do.
Just gives them a little bit
Now
something more to look at.
do you jig a little bit with it while you fish?
Sure, I want to get it wet here. Normally the sponge will swell up just a little bit, and it has a nice light action, light color. It's not a particularly good piece, but I'm going to work with it anyhow.
Now, ice fishing is not a sport, obviously, that you have to go to a great expense to do. You don't need a boat, no
That's
motors,
right.
no trailers.
Anywhere you can walk is accessible to you as long as you gain access to it legally, and a few bucks will get you into the equipment to do it. So and you don't even have to have a piece of equipment to cut through the ice if you follow the other fishermen around.
Well, looking at things to wear, you have on, I heard you telling Bob, a pair of what, $11 moon boots?
I think there are 13 on
13.
sale. Yeah, they're just foam-lined, inexpensive boots that are thick and heavy, and they get me by. I've tried everything, and I've got apparently poor circulation or cold, warm blood or whatever, but I get cold feet easily, and these are the thing that have really helped me.
Okay, well, you need a knit hat, a snowmobile suit. Let's see what some of the other folks are wearing now. Me, I am not outfitted like I should be. I am wearing leather boots right here, and they're bear greased, and so they're waterproof, but they are not the warmest things to wear on the ice. I'm going to have to invest in some moon boots. And you're wearing the felt pack, rubber bottomed.
Actually, no. There's I got the bottoms from some Sorels, but like Ron, I'm wearing the foam
You have a
packs from a pair of
foam.
moon boots.
I'll be darned, and inserted it in there. Well, now, here's another pair of boots for you folks that really want to keep your feet warm, called the Mickey Mouse boot, right?
Actually, these aren't Mickey Mouses. They look like
Yeah?
Mickey Mouses, but
Oh,
they're white like the Mickey Mouse, but they're felt-lined boots, and I don't have too much of a problem with cold feet, but these do keep me very warm. I don't have any problems at all.
Okay, well, this is...
That's a happy ice fisherman, one who doesn't have problems with the cold. Insulated boots, snowmobile suit, mittens, a small gas heater, all of these are inexpensive, just as ice fishing tackle is inexpensive. In the winter, fish don't move as quickly as in the summer, so if you locate a hungry school, you can oftentimes catch a pile of tasty panfish. No boat is needed, and for once, you can fish anywhere in the lake, a big advantage of ice fishing in Michigan outdoors. If I could only deliver some ice now for you ice anglers, we'd be in business because most of the state doesn't have enough. Look at what happened to the winter. So far this year, we've had 40 inches of snow on the ground up in the western UP, 200 inches last year at this time, and it was a lot colder. There is enough ice and snow in the western part of the UP, according to Wilderness Supply in Ontonagon. Dick's Favorite Sports says the Keweenaw Peninsula is producing excellent perch in some of the inland lakes. Snow is kind of iffy in some areas. Bayshore Resort, same story, 2 to 6 inches of snow. But the problem is out on Bay de Noc. There's less ice than there was a week or two ago, 6 to 8 inches. Cars shouldn't go out there, but there is some good perch fishing. Muskong Bay, Harry Reinfelder says they got 2 inches of snow on the ground, enough ice with a few pressure cracks in Muskong Bay, but they're catching some nice catches of walleye. Adrian's down in Rogers City says no snow, not much ice. They need some more cold, bad weather. Young's Bait Shop on the western side of the northern lower says it's fantastic bluegill fishing, though, 3 to 4 inches of snow. Alberta Sports Shop, well, they say no snow, very little ice. This is borne out by Emil Dean's report also. He says that his steelhead fishing has been good, but, geez, there's just not much winter look to it up there. Lots of steelhead down in the St. Joe River, according to Captain Nichols. Good rabbit hunting. This is reinforced over here. Real Hunting Outlet says it's a banner year for rabbits in southeastern lower Michigan, catching some big perch on the Canadian side. No ice down here, though. Detroit River, according to Lakeview Tackle, you can catch some 3-pounders at night. That's about the best fishing going in that corner of the state. Excellent perch, according to Gale's Bait and Tackle in Saginaw Bay. The ice is holding up. There is no ice on the Tittabawassee River, though, for you walleye anglers. There is ice on Houghton Lake, 5 to 10 inches of ice. Little snow on the ground, but Chief says they're catching some fish at the North Shore and the South Shore. Carp fishing. Joe Harlow says carp fishing is big right now. You're catching phenomenal numbers of carp in Saginaw Bay. I think you could even catch a trophy. Of course, it deserves to be in the trophy book. That's a big fish. It's a powerful fish, and truth be known, it's actually a lot cleaner fish than people think. It doesn't deserve its lowly reputation. Albert Walton from Onekama caught this 34.5-pound carp on a wiggler from Portage Lake in Manistee County. Landing any fish that size deserves a commendation. Saginaw Bay's Hot Pond is one of the few places you can troll in the middle of the winter. Tim Hart from Essexville caught a walleye there on a Hottentot, 30 inches, just over 10 pounds. Ice fishing with a little Cleo in Lake St. Clair took this 9.5-pound, 28-inch walleye for Russ Pack from Centerline. Where to go for perch? Lake Gogibic in the UP is a classic perch hole. Summer or winter, waxworm on a jig took this 1 3/4-pound, 14.5-incher for Doug Bailey from Marinisco. An inch shorter, but an ounce heavier is this perch caught by Marinisco's Gene Worthington, still fishing a minnow in February, Lake Gogibic. Crappie are a popular downstate fish. This 14.5-incher weighed 1 pound, 14 ounces, hit a minnow, which Ron Almasi was dunking through the ice in the Bad River, Shiawassee County. In the hunting awards section, we find Glenn Wunderlich from Utica with a big, heavy-beamed Iron County buck. Took it the third day of the season, 2:30 in the afternoon. It weighed 190 pounds dressed, 10 points with a 23-inch spread. Not nearly as wide, this 10-pointer had a tine that stretched nearly 10 inches. Beautiful symmetry. It made quite an opening day for Mike Denon from Lapeer, who was hunting in his home county. Here's a big bruiser, a buck that has 13 long tines and 7 more that can hold a 1-inch ring. 20 points. It was taken at the end of the season in Branch County by Dan Hand from Bronson, a fellow who put lots of venison in the freezer and earns the title of our Michigan Outdoors Hunter of the Week.
When the 2-deer law and the law that said you cannot be deer hunting without a valid kill tag went into effect last year, it really caused a lot of confusion among sportsmen and also licensed dealers. Now, Ed Langenau, who is the deer expert for the DNR Wildlife Division, says by making the back tag and the kill tag the same tag, we might end that confusion.
If we have the kill tag being the same as the back tag, then we have the possibility of using that first kill tag, and then the law officer would clearly know that an individual is a field without a valid license. So it would have some benefits in terms of ending confusion, and it would also have some benefits in terms of law enforcement. We still have a problem with unlicensed hunters in the field, and one of the most common law enforcement problems we had this year was untagged deer on private land. And the officers a lot of times don't know by just visually looking at somebody whether they have a license or not. If we had that kind of a system, it would certainly be easier to detect those types of violations.
The pike and walleye seasons are set for some big changes this year. In the UP, the season will begin as it has for many years on May 15th. But beginning in 1988, it will end on March 15th instead of February 28th. In the Lower Peninsula, pike and walleye season will be open on the Great Lakes and connecting waters year-round. Beginning April 1st of this year, Lower Peninsula inland waters will be open the last Saturday in April, same as the trout season. And beginning in 1988, pike and walleye seasons will close March 15th. Although these dates are far more liberal than the May 15th to February 28th seasons we've all gotten used to, DNR fish biologist Ned Fogel says that the new regulations will protect spawning walleyes and pike and won't hurt their populations at all. 300 or so people showed up Tuesday night at a public hearing in East Lansing to air their views on a proposed handgun ordinance. While most of the East Lansing residents that attended spoke against the ordinance, many of the non-residents objected to the proposal because it would ban even transporting a legal registered handgun through the city by non-residents. Many East Lansing area non-residents were not happy at the prospect of having to go around the city in order to hunt or target shoot or face a fine or jail sentence. The council is supposed to act on the proposal in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Moose 2 is the theme of the second transplant of moose from Ontario to the Upper Peninsula, expected to take place in early February. The project, for the most part, is being funded by conservation groups like the Michigan Wildlife Habitat Foundation, Safari Club International, and the Upper Peninsula Sportsmen's Alliance. In order to raise the necessary money, conservation organizations are offering these posters to people who donate to the Moose Lift. The printing of the posters was donated by several Michigan companies so that every dollar raised goes to the project. If you'd like information on how to help the Moose Tube Project and receive a poster, you can call the DNR Public Affairs Office at area code 517-373-1214. That's area code 517-373-1214. Law enforcement officials in the Alpena-Rogers City area need your help. Somebody has been, for the past 2 deer seasons, trying to keep deer hunters off of the state land near Rogers City by placing welded and sharpened metal spikes along 2-track roads. Now, Lieutenant Bob Kraft of the Alpena State Police Post says that a number of people have lost tires, but luckily no one has suffered a severe injury, at least yet. He says he's working with the Sheriff's Department and the local conservation officer, and they're pretty sure they know who's doing it, but they need help to get a conviction. If you know anything about this, please call the DNR Report All Poaching Hotline, the Alpena State Police Post, or the Presque Isle County Sheriff's Department. And in this week's outdoor reminder, to be perfectly legal, your tip-ups must have your name clearly printed on them.
You know, some of the laws we have are very clear-cut, like putting your name in your tip-up. Some of them aren't so clear-cut. We got a letter, Bob, about the subject of tight lining, which is putting your hook and line out in the water and letting a fish run into it. You said that tight lining was legal. The law states that the hook must be in the mouth, not around the mouth. In 99 of 100 cases, a fish caught tight lining is hooked outside of the mouth. Where the law is concerned, you should state it as it is without interpretation. Let the sportsman decide, or let them contact the DNR for clarification. Well, Doug Emerson, I wished it was that easy on these laws.
As a matter of fact, just to double check it, in fact, we knew that to be true, but we called Herb Burns, the chief of the law enforcement division. He says so long as those hooks are baited and they're legal size hooks and they're used on a line, it's caught with rod and reel, he says it's perfectly legal.
Yeah,
there's no way the CO can swim under the water and find out how the fish got on that hook.
Right, as long as you're not jerking the line too. So if you do it that way and a fish runs into it, I mean, it's a legal method. Now, what you say that we shouldn't interpret the laws here on Michigan Outdoors, let me tell you, there's a ton of them. Tree stand law, there's a definition of a bow that the DNR, frankly, has all garbled up right now. There's the public information job that the DNR has done in the past 10 years or so since they disassembled their Information and Education Division has frankly been lousy. And I think if it wasn't for us, Bob, interpreting some of these things and putting this information out,
Well, that's right. At least we've got a direct pipeline to the people that have to use that information.
so we're going to continue to interpret, and we hope it helps. If you disagree, write us, and we'll check it out again. Now let's have you answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
Alaska and Wyoming both report that over 50% of the adult population hunts or fishes. Neither have the highest number, however. Which state has the most hunters and fishermen? According to the Fish and Wildlife Service's 1980 survey, California leads in totals with over 4 million, followed by Texas with 3.2 million sportsmen and women.
Now this is a little mucky right here. That's a little mucky, all right. A trout stream in the summer, getting in and out of the stream can be difficult for anybody. I'm having difficulty climbing up the bank, going through the muck, over the limbs. It's night. These types of difficulties prevent a lot of people from participating in hunting and fishing. We've found out, especially older people, handicappers, even little kids can't do it. With Outdoors Forever, we want to address ourselves to that and see if we can come up with some solutions. So Catherine Mulhaupt and Roger McCarville from Outdoors Forever put together a survey, which we sent out. We've got a lot of responses back. We asked the question to you folks, asked if you're handicapped or not and what problems you have hunting and fishing, physical problems outdoors. Catherine, what's the response? What did they say?
Well, we had a great response. The biggest problem so far has been mobility or walking, limited walking, followed by the use of arms or the upper body.
We're just talking about mobility. Well, like Roger, did these people write in were wheelchair users? Or?
No, it was, in fact, most of them simply indicated they had difficulty walking. Some were wheelchair users, but most of them simply said it was hard for them to get around, particularly outdoors.
Did they say what was the main problem?
Well,
that they said?
surprisingly enough, the main problem was arthritis, and that came in first before being a paraplegic or a quadriplegic.
That's not identified oftentimes as a handicap. People don't say, I have arthritis, so I'm handicapped.
Yeah, well,
Right?
if you're not in a wheelchair, you're not handicapped.
Well, that's the illusion.
Yeah. Where really, if you're not going out doing what you used to do, you have a disability.
You asked about travel in the survey.
It was interesting that we had about 60-40 handicapper to non-handicapper response. The handicappers indicated they traveled about 164 miles average per trip, and the nons about 180, which isn't that much of a difference. And the handicappers outnumbered the nons in use of campgrounds and hotels and motels. So they spend money when they go hunting and fishing.
So handicappers travel as much by car, but their number one problem comes
Once they get there. They have a hard time getting into the woods. They have a hard time getting into streams. They have a hard time camping, bow hunting, getting in and out of boats, getting out to the end of a pier.
So, for example, just watching this trout fishing right here, the problem is getting from the car at the parking lot down into the stream. Once a handicapper was standing right there in that stream, if we could get you out there, Raj, in your chair, you could fish.
Sure.
Boy, that access, that cuts a lot of people out of hunting and fishing.
It certainly does, and a lot of the handicappers indicated they didn't hunt, fish, or shoot as much as the nons did, but they said they used to hunt or fish more, and they like to. It's just that their disability limits them.
By doggone, we're talking about all of us in the future who want to continue hunting and fishing. That's what Outdoors Forever is all about, and you folks that have dropped out, we're going to round you up and bring you back. Right. That's the spirit in Outdoors Forever. That's what we're doing this for. Now, let's take a look at some of the events coming up right now in our outdoor calendar.
This weekend, the Central Michigan RV and Travel Show runs through Sunday at the Lansing Civic Center. If you've caught or taken a trophy in 1986 this weekend, make sure you drop your entry form in the mail. Saturday is the deadline for both Stroh's Hunting and Fishing Awards and the DNR Master Angler entries from last year. Sunday, the Chippewa Bow Hunters have an open house in Leslie. Bring your bow and enjoy the company of this friendly group. Yes, there will be a tip-up town, and we'll be there for opening weekend, the 17th and 18th. If you can't make it, plan on the 24th and 25th to wrap up the celebration at Houghton Lake. If you have a favorite fish or wild game recipe, send it to our cooking contest. Write to us for an official entry form. Stroh's Hunting Awards Banquet, February 21st, will be the awards presentation for hunters. See some big racks and hear some good stories.
15-point Jake Roberson, look at this. Tell you what. This deer is getting a lot of applause. As I recall, this is the one that was just a fraction of an inch away from being the Boone and Crockett record in this state.
Right, quarter inch.
A quarter inch away.
A great night for hunters and their families, and for anglers, they're in the spotlight on March 7th. See the mounts of 1986's biggest fish. At both banquets, Outdoors Forever will have some special fundraisers with great prizes. We'll all be at the Outdoor Fair this June in Houghton Lake. Hope you'll be there too, June 26th through the 28th. And that's a look at this week's Michigan Outdoors calendar.
Now's the time to take those bluegills that you catch through the ice, if you can find the ice, of course, cook them up. Debbie Dybel from Saline sent us this recipe. It's called Bluegill Delight. And I know some of you are going to cringe and say, why do bluegill in a casserole?
That's right, or why put all that stuff on it?
Yeah, that stuff on it. Well, because if you catch a lot of bluegill, and it's such a good tasting
it's a change.
fish.
It's something different. This has got, actually, it's got mustard and got Worcestershire sauce, green pepper, which you would think would take away from the fish, but it really doesn't. And parsley. Now, you could use fresh parsley. Minced onion and butter. And the minced onion, you could use fresh there, too. And milk is going to kind of make a sauce. And then your great fillets.
There, right there, we have some fillets, some bluegill fillets we're putting in the water. Interesting thing, these are boiled first.
Only about 5 minutes in boiling water. And you want it to be boiling first, and then make sure it comes to another boil. Then, in a separate pan, you're going to add your milk and butter, and I suppose you wouldn't need to add the butter if you're on that kind of a diet. Because some people will leave it out. Okay, minced onion. Now, this is actually dried onion flakes is what it is.
They have quite a distinct flavor.
They're pungent when they are reconstituted. They're quite strong. That's parsley flakes, and you could use fresh. And these get strong, too. Now, these get quite strong in the jar, and sometimes they lose their flavor. And ground mustard, and it's ground very fine here.
What is mustard, a seed?
Yes, exactly, yep. It takes a lot of those little seeds. Now that's strong, and you don't use very much of that, a quarter teaspoon.
Those S&P?
Yep.
Put in there. Worcestershire sauce.
Now this calls for 2 tablespoons, and it looks like it's going to darken your milk a little bit, but it's still real good.
What, 3?
Well, that's because I shorted on the second one.
Okay.
And fresh pepper.
Put the green pepper in for
Yep.
the sauce.
Yep.
Now we take the fish out that was boiling
Yep.
for 5 minutes.
Gonna drain it because you don't want that water. I'm gonna put this in a casserole dish. And that does boil. You want your fish added to there just to warm it up. Kind of stir it up.
Oh, I see. The fish is already cooked, so you add it to the sauce you made just to
Right.
warm it.
Yep.
Put it in the casserole dish, and then
You
what
put
goes
crushed crackers on top. You could use potato chips, just about anything here.
This is an unusual
It is. It makes
recipe.
it kind of a coating on top.
And there it is after it's been in the oven at 375 degrees for 15 minutes, and Bob Garner
There I am,
wiped it out.
empty. I'd like that last piece after we're through with this. But,
Okay.
You know, it's surprising with all the ingredients that go in and the tanginess of those ingredients, especially with lemon, it really doesn't disturb the flavor of the fish.
No, I thought
It
the
really-
green pepper
not at
would,
all.
but
Well,
it doesn't.
Let's look at this fish right here. I'm going to cut it open, and you can see the white, flaky, sure doesn't look like bluegill, does it? That's why we
Well.
have the lemon here. What this is actually that we tried this time, we tried bluegill before, but which is excellent, we tried some catfish. Other types of fish do not taste as good in this recipe as bluegill does.
I'll tell you, we were talking about that earlier. That catfish was great. I liked
You
that.
like that?
I liked it, and I'm not a catfish fan at all, but this is great.
Now that surprises me. Well, try it.
Good recipe.
Try it with any kind of fish if you want. I guess Bob Garner says, I like the bluegill, the perch, the walleye, and it's a great recipe. Debbie Dybel from Saline, thank you very much. Hope you folks can get outdoors this weekend, catch some bluegill, make some bluegill delight. Outdoors is a great place to be. See you next week. Well,
If you didn't copy down the ingredients for Bluegill Delight, no problem. It's featured in the upcoming issue of the Outdoor Digest. All of the recipes for January and February will be in this edition, along with articles on hunting and fishing subjects you'll see on Michigan Outdoors. A special supplement called Outdoors Forever tells you how you can enjoy a lifetime of outdoor activity. Plus, you'll receive information on how you can join Fred Trost Outdoors Club and support the great outdoors. Your free copy of the digest, which is coming out soon, is yours for the asking. Write to us at Fred Trost Outdoors Club, P.O. Box 6001, East Lansing, Michigan 48823.
Called the Mickey Mouse boot, right?
Actually, these aren't Mickey Mouses. They look like
Yeah?
Mickey Mouses, but
Oh,
they're white like the Mickey Mouse, but they're felt-lined boots. And I don't have too much of a problem with cold feet, but these do keep me very warm. I don't have any problems at all.
Okay, well, this is...
that's a happy ice fisherman, one who doesn't have problems with the cold. Insulated boots, snowmobile suit, mittens, a small gas heater, all of these are inexpensive, just as ice fishing tackle is inexpensive. In the winter, fish don't move as quickly as in the summer, so if you locate a hungry school, you can oftentimes catch a pile of tasty panfish. No boat is needed, and for once, you can fish anywhere in the lake. A big advantage of ice fishing in Michigan Outdoors.